What's going on, gang? It's your boy E Beezy in the building, Eric Buckner in the house, and that, of course, right there is the man we call the sports guru, Hugh Lee, which means it's
Hey, what's going on?
for GameTime Audible. What's going on, Hugh?
Man, a lot of stuff going on right now, man. We're ready to get into it.
You hear the beeps and buzzers going off, so that means we definitely got some updates going. So don't be surprised we break some breaking news to you. So that being said, y'all, good evening. Glad y'all could join us. Ready to get this show cracking. Let's do this doggone thing as we do at this time every week. We're gonna start it on off with the trending topics and the big news. Right now, we actually got a actual update to give you in regards to baseball. Go ahead and break that news for him, Hugh.
Man, my homeboy Fernando Tatis Jr., man, just turned 22 recently, man. He got a really big mega deal right now with the San Diego Padres. He just got him a 10-year, $340 million contract.
$330 million.
He definitely deserved that, man. And he taking them to the bank. But then they got their two players locked up now, which was a smart thing for them to do because they got Manny Machado. He was one of the big deals they did. And now they turn around and they get the kid, Fernando Tatis, man. So that's really good news for the San Diego Padres moving forward. And 340 mil, man, he taking them to the bank. But he's a good player, man, and he's a kid right now. And the good thing is they'll have him through his prime. So let's see how that works out.
Right. So basically, between him and Machado, they invested what about almost 700 million between those two players alone for the next
Long.
15 years.
hmm
That's a big gamble, man. You got to get at least a couple World Series out of that, don't you think?
I definitely think so. They definitely gonna get the Dodgers a run for their money, but I thought it was a good deal because remember one of the first good guys they got on free agency was a shocker was Eric Hosmer. They got Eric Hosmer already locked into a deal. Now they got, Manny Machado, who's one of their big free agents the last couple years ago. And now they got one of their own players, Fernando Tatis, into a deal. So that was a smart move. I feel like it's a lot invested and hopefully it work out. They basically letting the Dodgers know they here to play right now. So yeah, that's a little smoke under them, man, to keep them busy.
Absolutely. So yeah, like I said, we had that breaking news for you to jump off the show, but we got a good show for y'all this evening, people. Fret not, fret not. We're gonna talk about some more trending topics in sports. Our major topic for this evening, we're gonna talk about the press conference that Draymond Green had in regards to some of the comments he made last night. There's a lot of layers to that, so we definitely plan on getting to that. We're gonna talk about this young lady right here. She's young to me, but not necessarily young to the sport she is in. That would be
hmm
Miss Serena Williams, who right now is in the process of rating out a rain delay there in Australia before she plays her semifinal match with Miss Osaka to determine who's going to the Australian Open final on Saturday. Gonna be an excellent match. Looking forward to catching the rest of that after the show. So yeah, we're gonna talk about her, and then of course get into some of the things going on in some of the other sports that you know and love. All right, we got our first comment of the evening. Aunt Nikki in the house. Aunt Nikki from Aunt Nikki. Let's talk with Aunt Nikki, and also from Dishing Tea with Big Meech. What's going on, Aunt Nikki Boo?
How you doing?
Thanks for joining us this evening. So that being said, y'all go ahead and grab your beverage of choice, grab your little snack. We about to hit these commercial breaks, and then we're gonna get into the show. Okay? This is Game Time Audible. That's the sports guru right over there. Let me tell you a little bit more about this guy. He got some other things going on for you too. Check it out. Have you been scrolling Facebook and looking for that quick sports fix? Want a quick peek of what's going on in the latest sports news? Check out Pure to the Game Sports Blog with the sports guru, Hugh D. Lee. He'll get you together. Check it out. Follow it on Facebook. Make sure you like it.
We're not asking for your permission. We're not seeking your approval. We're claiming what's ours in the name of our ancestors. We are their answered prayers. This is more than a movement. This is a revolution. Black innocence. What are yours today?
What's going on, y'all? We back. GameTime Audible in the building. It is me, your boy, Big E, Eric Buck in the building, and we got the sports guru, Hugh Lee, coming to kick y'all some sports this evening. We got Aunt Nikki checking in. Love you, Aunt Nikki. Doing your thing out here. And these streets and those Bigo streets is where you can catch Aunt Nikki on Bigo. She's doing several panels and doing some good work over there. Please check her out if you got Bigo and have access to that. And of course, she's here on the book and YouTube as well. You can find that under Aunt Nikki 215 on YouTube if you're so inclined to do so. But that being said, we're about to get on back into the show here. Remember, as always, you guys can tune in and check us out in the comments. Let us know your thoughts and processes and some of the things that we're discussing this evening. Right now, we actually gonna jump it off with a little football talk, little NFL we're gonna bring to you because right now we're gonna talk about something that happened earlier last week, where one of the premier defensive players in the game got his release from the Houston Texans. Tell them a little bit about that, Hugh.
Yeah, it wasn't really a shocker to me because I know that Deshaun Watson wanted, out and he's been having his issues. And we seen them too at one point. And me and Eric talked about that before. I didn't put it on the show yet, but those two were talking and JJ Watt said, man, we sorry for wasting your years, man. You're young, you're still in your prime, man. We should at least had two championships under you right now, man. And I'm sorry. He ended up apologizing later, and things actually got worse with the whole Deshaun Watson scenario. Now, J.J. Watson, the situation where I think it was best for both sides. They released him, and it was like a mutual agreement. So I was definitely glad for him. He deserved to definitely try to go to a competitive team and try to win a championship because spending his time in Houston is basically wasting his time, man. I mean, how old is J.J. Watt now? Like 32 years old? He's not getting any younger.
Absolutely. So that being said, you got to consider you're not just getting J.J. Watt, the defensive player, kind of slightly on the downcline, had some injuries over the past few years, but you're also getting J.J. Watt, the icon, J.J. Watt, the ambassador of the NFL, so to speak. When you consider some of his work he's done in the community there at Houston, some of the things he spoke out on in terms of the NFL and playing safely the year before and other things of that nature. So when you bring in him, you bring in the cameras and the focus as well. So that being said, there are several teams I'm sure that will want his interest, not to mention the fact that now he's been released. You pretty much bid yourself to the highest bidder. So that being said, Hugh, let's talk about some of the places that he might end up at. For one, you definitely got to consider the place where his family presently resides. That is his brothers in the league. They both play for those Pittsburgh Steelers. So it definitely would have to be a destination you would consider. Don't you think, Hugh?
Yeah, definitely, man. It's a family thing. And I know Juju was throwing that out there too, man, because you heard people starting to do their recruitments right now. Juju Smith Schuster was one of them saying, come on, man, you might as well come to Pittsburgh and play with your brothers. And another one I had in mind was the school he went to, man, and that was dear to his heart, was on the Green Bay Packers because he played in Wisconsin and when he was playing in college.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you got to consider some of the people that's coached him in the past. He got those ties to Tennessee Titans. Talk about that, Hugh.
Oh yeah, the Tennessee Titans. That's funny too, man. That's what lured Jadeveon Clowney over there. The fact that Mike Bravel is the coach now, who was their defensive coach. I think that was like some of the better years they had too when they were playing with the Houston Texans, man, with Mike Bravel. So I think that'll definitely be a good place, a destination to be trying to lure him in at. And I just seen too not so long ago the Buffalo Bills are making their bid, a heavy bid too.
Yeah, and then of course, like I said, pretty much any place that is close to winning a championship and can use somebody of his caliber on their defense, because other places they've talked about is Tampa Bay, possibility him returning, going to Wisconsin there in Green Bay, because of course, he went to school there in Wisconsin. Uh, there's been some talk,
Cleveland.
yeah, some talk about Cleveland. I think the Giants even came up in the discussion at some point. So like I said, with him being one of the better defensive players when healthy, mind you, when healthy. But that being said, I think in the end, he makes a quality decision and he goes where he goes, gets a nice little deal. And at that point, he determines where a couple other free agents go as hit with him as well, I would think.
He definitely gonna set the standard. Definitely when it comes
All
to
right, here we go.
play.
We got the MVP of the comments himself. Bill, what's going on? What's going on? What up? What up? What's up?
Will.
Spam and egg sandwich. Nice Italian meals there, cuz. Of course, you think that, cousin. Here we go. Here we go. You
Hey,
know
who
you
they look at, man? You know y'all got Frank Clark over there, man. Y'all got Frank Clark, and y'all got a couple of guys over there, man. You know who gonna leave? Y'all ain't gonna want to get rid of Frank Clark.
Yeah, so that being said, yeah, that would be real interesting to actually start to match up that defense to go with that high power offense. You could have a mini dynasty on your hands if you work it out right. So I ain't mad at you for wanting that to happen at least, cuz I ain't mad at you. That being said, I know one thing won't be coming here
I
for
don't
us
even have to talk about that.
and a wishful thinking world, and him come to the Lions. He'll be talking the same way Deion Sanders was talking that year we was gonna draft him. Man, they have to pay me so much money. They have to put me on layaway.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we can't afford that.
Yeah, cloud like that.
Yeah, Bucks and Clark's a linebacker. Well,
Still,
if the price is
man,
right, he will be.
when you look at it, yeah, I mean, JJ gonna do both, man. You know, most times they're not just the defensive end; they're defensive end slash linebackers. Most of them now are hybrid players.
Right, because if you think about it, that is what J.J. Watt is. He's defensive end. You can play him in the defensive middle. You also could play him at middle linebacker. And on a good
Tight
day, you
end.
can tight end and fullback. So there's that. You get a variety of things when you get him in the building. But me myself, if I was to ask where would I want him to go, I want him to go with his fam, man, because I think they'll have a good old time, and they might be able to pull off something and get a ring together. That'll be real cool for them to all get a Super Bowl ring at the same time with the same team. I know their parents will be happy at least.
Yeah, if they do it this time,
Alternate downs. That's a possibility too. Remember, you got both of them that's in a little bit of the lack of prime, so to speak. So yeah, that would be good on both of their bodies. That would be good in terms of confusing the offense as to what you're gonna get when each one come in. Every now and then you have both of them play. Hey, I ain't mad at none of that. Right now the world is his, bro.
yeah, wherever he go, it won't surprise me. And I know that wherever he go, he gonna want to win pretty much because they
Yeah,
are straight rebuild mode right now in Houston, and I don't think that's a good destination for him.
your cousin saying Pittsburgh would be cool though, and get him Watson too. Yeah, well, that's a realm of possibility also. That'd be real
Ooh,
cool. I
I'm glad he mentioned
think it would
that.
be a good destination for both of them.
Yeah, remember I was telling you about what was going on today, man, with Kevin Colvin, man. He's not really in a situation where he wants to keep Ben. He's not sure what's going to happen there because he's $41 million in the cap right now. And if they do get rid of him or let him walk, it'll be like $22 million cap hit with or without him. So, yeah, they're thinking about their future right now, man. And their future, they're basically talking about playing without Big Ben. So yeah, that'd be a nice scenario with Watson too.
Absolutely. So yeah, like I said, we just wanted to touch on that NFL for a minute. We'll get into free agency and all that. Remember, folks, if you're gonna be looking for the show this week, next week, we will not be on next week. We'll probably air a previous episode for you guys to check out. We're gonna take a little hiatus to kind of recharge the batteries so I can work on some of my various projects here at the Nighthawk Network and get my life in order. So when COVID is thinning itself out and I go back to work, we can get things going. I know you're happy to hear about that, cousin. Yes, there is work to do later on down the line. I seen that comment you left earlier. You clown me, bro. You clown me. Anyway, Big Meech is in the head. What up, Big Stuff? What's good, folks? Checking in from the donut factory. That's dedication right there. That's good. Checking in from the
donut factory. Your brother starved.
I appreciate you, bro. So that being said, folks, we're going to get into a little NCAA talk before we move forward. Work on answering your phone. You hit me up, cuz you did? Okay, then. My bad. If I missed your call, I don't recall you calling, but hey, it's all good. Anyway, here we go. We're going to talk a little NCAA, just a little bit, y'all. We ain't going to get deep dive like we did last week, okay? So everybody calm down. We got to touch on it, and we got to touch on it a little bit. So let's hit the College Campus Cafe for a second. Talk a little NCAA. All right, hold on. Let me get these comments in right quick. Look who else is checking in. Hold on. What T was the NFL player being found dead in a hotel room? Okay, that's a new one on me.
You heard about that, E?
I did not. Put me up on game, bro.
Man, I was sad because, man, it was after the Tampa Bay Super Bowl, man. My man Vincent Jackson, man, who played for the San Diego Chargers at the time. And then he went over to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man. He was basically a mentor to Mike Evans, man. I think he was there right before Chris Godwin was there. And, yeah, man, it was just a sad situation, man. It was right after the Super Bowl, like a little bit around that time. They found him dead in his hotel room. They're still trying to see what was going on and what happened with him. He was like 38 years old, man. That really is we still don't really know what happened. We just know he was just found dead from the police in his hotel room.
Okay, so no reports as if it was foul play or anything of that nature?
No, they still trying to come up with what happened in that situation. I just felt like, man, and I hate to say it, man, I think it might have been from a broken heart, man. Who knows, man? Damn, to see the team that you played for, and when you left the league, you look up and see them win the Super Bowl, man, that could be a painful situation, but it's just speculation right now. I'm just saying what could have happened, and I just put two and two together in that situation, but yeah, we'll definitely find out more details and keep y'all posted.
Okay, I hate to ask this, but it plays a part of the narrative of this particular football player. What persuasion was he?
He was, you said what position?
No, what persuasion?
Man, yeah, he was black. Definitely was black, man. I know. Do you recall him, E?
I do not recall him, but the reason why we all kind of shocked and amazed that it went on, it wasn't reported greatly. That is why. He had been a person that was perhaps not of color. That might have been a bigger story. Unfortunately, we know how those things play out.
He was really good too. Yeah, I know you'll remember him. If you see him, you'll be like, "Oh, well, that brother, man," because he was the man when he was, playing with the San Diego Chargers, and then he ended up leaving. And when he left, that's when he went over there to Tampa Bay, man, and they had some pretty decent teams, man. It was just, yeah, that came unexpectedly, man. When I seen that, man, I was definitely shocked.
Okay, he said, "Must have been a star."
He was definitely a star.
Yeah, if he had been an All-Pro or one of the Nike symbol folks or something like that, maybe it would play. But yeah, bottom line, he was playing the league, so I hear what you're saying. What up, Brad? What's going on? Check it out, bro. We're gonna be looking for you later on in the show when we talk about this one particular topic involving Mr. Draymond Green. We're gonna get into that story. So be looking out for you on the VIP line when we get to that discussion, Mr. Hunter. Okay. And what about the white dude who beat up his black girlfriend? Yeah, we had that discussion couple weeks ago on the show, did we not, Hugh? In
Yeah,
regard,
we definitely did, man. That was a sad situation. That was with me, you, and Mr. Antonio Tillman.
absolutely. Any new news to report in regards to that?
Not really. It wasn't really nothing said about it, man. Basically, what we discussed was all that I've heard of.
Okay, so yeah, we haven't heard anything new in regards to that. So you just Googled him. I remember him. Okay. So yeah, Cuz is up on it. Like I said,
Yeah, remember that.
it,
When you
it,
Google them, you
I
gotta remember
think
them
I can
too.
recall the story briefly now that I think about it, but I just kind of glanced over it, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
Prior to reports from his family say he was suffering from concussions and alcoholism very badly. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll be testing him post mortem for CTE to see if that played a factor. And of course,
definitely that's gonna play a fact. He played long enough.
yeah, I mean it's pretty much said that the majority of the league, anybody that's played 5 years or longer, probably has some form of CTE at this point. Sad but true. Sad but true. But yeah, okay, get into this college basketball. Now here's the thing, of course, as I predicted last week after the UConn Lady Huskies, yeah, I'm going there. I'm talking women's sports. Deal with it. Yeah, are now the new number one team in the country. And of course, because they beat South Carolina, they basically just switched. So South Carolina second, and then you had the usual suspects. Not too many big games coming this week in terms of the women's game. We got a couple good inter-conference rivalries going on, but the thing is, the men's side, that's the side that really is interesting to me. Keep in mind, top five this week, of course, we still got Gonzaga number one, you got Baylor number two, but then the next three is all Big Ten teams. You
Yes,
got
sir.
Ohio State and Illinois rounding out the top five. So yeah, they right now in terms of the big teams, they kind of dominating. And in the top 25 in general, there's six Big Ten teams in the top 25. So yeah, I think that's real interesting as we start to get into the last leg of the regular conference season here. What you think, Hugh?
I'm definitely loving that, man, because we don't get the props that we deserve as a conference, man, not in football or anything, man. But now to see how big we are right now in the NCAA men's bracket, man, I'm definitely proud of them, man. Because Gonzaga, we talked about it. No disrespect to them, man. I just don't really feel like they had a lot of competition right now. You
See,
know,
the thing is, I think this tournament is still going to be wide open because a lot of teams, because of how the clunky the play is being, you know what I'm saying? Where some teams they didn't played out most of their season and not had any real COVID issues to deal with, but other teams they didn't played a few games, had to stop, play a few more games, had to stop, change opponents. All that is throwing a lot of these teams kind of off in terms of their play, and then oftentimes some of these teams they have 4 or 5 people that's not able to play. So you're running with 8 or 9 for a bench, and that's affecting how games go. Again, remember a lot of the powerhouse teams, a lot of the blue bloods, they are not anywhere in the top 25 yet again this week. In fact, many of those teams don't look like they're gonna make the tournament at all based on the recent numbers. You
man,
got
that burn.
North Carolina and Kentucky with losing records right now overall. That is crazy
Yeah,
considering
my
the talent that you got on
Tar-
some of the squads.
yeah, I'm not happy about that. My Tar Heels not in, and I'm sick with it, man.
Oh, hold on. We've been there already. Okay. Hold on. Work with me, people. There we go. Men's can't even pick who gonna win. Last week was all Big 12. Exactly. And a lot of those teams
Yeah,
kind of pick up on each other, so that's why they dropped out the top five. So yeah, this tournament, it's a who knows at this point. It could be to where Gonzaga and Baylor run the table, but on the other hand, they can actually get to playing in the tournament, get to playing some of these teams that's finally getting into their groove and get upset in the first, second round. I think anything can happen, especially if they're
yeah,
going to deal with the bubble and all that, because that's going to definitely play a role in what goes on with these squads as well. Okay, hold on. H2 is in the building. What up, H2? What it do? What up, yo? Live from the room in Baltimore. Okay, Big Meech is saying, what can the sports world do to make the sport safer? Everyone knows the danger, so why are after all these years they're not making advances for safety, or is it the money and the machine are rooted in it? Now, keep in mind they are making improvements to the equipment overall, Meech, in terms of the helmets and some of the padding. And of course, they've changed several of the rules so that people don't get to hitting folks in the head and whatnot. There's severe penalties, and sometimes you get fined and suspended if you do those things. So that's part of what they're doing to help make it safer overall. But remember, football is a violent sport in of itself. People are not meant to ram into each other at several miles an hour, you know? So it's only so much safety you can implement in the game of football, particularly when you got superior athletes running at top speed, smashing into each other. They say basically on average, a football player in a good 5 year span has enough collisions to have at least the equivalent of like 150 car accidents. So just imagine you being in a car accident like every day, every week. You know what I'm saying? Like once a week for the next 5 years of your life. That part.
It's a brutal game, man. They definitely trying to do what they could to help out with the safety. They do not play that when you try to lead with the helmet. Not only is it protecting you, it's protecting the other players because you've noticed every time you see a person lead with a helmet, the person who led with their helmet are the ones that's usually getting hurt. So they're trying to put what they could in the sport to make it safe. Don't know really know how. Most of them are making better, leeway with the helmets and like the padding. They starting to try to implement more hip padding because a lot of people get hip injuries for getting tackled in the hip. So they're doing a lot to try to make it safer. But how safe can it be when you got a 250-pound man and a 300-pound man running up against each other at full speed? And some of these big defensive linemen and even the offensive linemen, man, they can run like a 4-5 flat, man. And just imagine the dude that big, 300 pounds on the defense running at you like that. They can run just as fast as some of these college cornerbacks, and these guys are at 300 pounds on the defensive line. So, yeah, that's the one thing they're going to have to do is just continue to implement safety and keeping safety in all sports right now to protect their players.
Right. So the money is in the hurt, the kill. Wow, that's why I didn't play. And keep in mind, Meech, like I said, I played for a hot minute, but I'm kind of glad that I didn't either. Quick story. One of my old bosses back in the day, Van Masters Management, Mr. Van Masters himself, a former Super Bowl champion with the Green Bay Packers. One time we had a discussion, outside of the business in regards to his playing career. And he talks about how a lot of the people that he played with back then, can remember, he played out there in the early 60s, the first Super Bowls he was in. And the equipment back then is way different than it was now in terms of how safe it is. Remember, he comes from the era where they had the leather helmets, okay? No strap, no none of that. So imagine the impacts that they had running into each other in the frozen tundra. He walked with a limp himself, but he said, he making out good compared to some of the people he played with. They wake up in constant pain, had to take pain pills just to get through the day and all that type of stuff. So people don't understand. It's the reason why football players, the good ones, make what they make these days because they pay a price. They absolutely pay a price.
Yeah, most definitely, man. I'm surprised too. I was watching the Brian Gumbo, man. It was a situation where two guys are best friends played on the football team, and they didn't even recognize each other, man. This guy, like, I've never seen him. I don't know him. Then the wife had to show him a picture, like, see, this is your best friend. And he like, man, it blew his mind because they lose so much memory, man. And football takes so much off of their life, man. And it's sad because we love the sport. And, it's like a drug to us, man. We got to have it on Saturdays and Sundays, man. And that's something Mondays, Thursdays, it comes on so much now that it's like during a whole week. But yeah, it's just sad to see that happen, man. Because, yeah, we're not putting our lives on the line or anything, but we all love and enjoy the sport. But that's where that money comes from, man. This
Right.
is a billion.
Neither one of us played major high school or college sports, but we did play the game as kids. And hell, I still got injuries from those days. So
Man,
I
who
don't
you telling,
imagine I
man?
played it for years and years.
I had hip injuries and everything coming up in PAL, man. Foot sprains, and that's why when people say you're not 100%, you playing. A few times I was banged up in PAL, man, and still played.
Exactly. To this day, my knee get to bother me sometimes from a hit that I took back in the day. So yeah,
Mhm.
I completely get it. Okay, Cuz is saying the rankings are confusing with wins and losses. I see teams with more losses rank higher than teams with less. going back to the NCAA, yeah, it's hard to really judge who is who. You know, you can't go against that the usual metrics that you would go with under normal circumstances when you talk about strength of schedule and home games versus away games. Because remember, games ain't no real home or away games because ain't no real fans in the park. It's some schools that's allowing certain pockets of people to come in, but they're not having no major impact on the schools. I mean, remember, one of the big mistakes about Duke in of itself is going to play in Cameron with all the Cameron crazies. Ain't no crazy this year. None of that. So that's definitely affecting some of the machismo and whatnot you would have when you go to Duke. Sometimes just seeing that crowd and how intimidating they could be, that takes away from your game. That throws you off your game with all that stuff. People talking all that crazy stuff. Again, let's look at Michigan State and where they play at. Usually they have a pretty raucous crowd dealing with the zone and all that. Again, they don't have that this year, so that's taken away from some of their play as well, I'm sure. Not to mention the whole having to start and stop and all of that. Okay, cuz saying I don't have CTE, but I've had several concussions from explosions, so I feel their pain. Once your brain is jarred, you are screwed for life. PTSD, absolutely. Yeah, I done had a few accidents, car accidents. To this day, right here, folks, this little dent right here you see, there's a chip. As in, I have a chip skull from one of those accidents. And then when they do the scan, there's a little brown spot right there. It says not CTE, but it's basically where my brain was damaged right there in the middle. So if I come off as a little crazy, that's why. That's why I'm a little banged up in the head. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but anyway, I digress, folks. We are talking sports here this evening on the show that we know as GameTime Audible. But we about to get into our major topic after we come back from these commercial breaks. We got to talk about what happened with that guy, Draymond Green, last night. He had some stuff to say about what's going on in the league, and I absolutely agree with him. And we'll see if you do too. Crazy because you're a Butler. Yeah, then there's that part. But nonetheless, like I said, we're about to come back here. Let us get this commercial break in. We're going to holler at a couple of the folks, and then we're going to come back and talk about Draymond and what he had to say and the many layers that involve that conversation. Game time. Yes, we'll be back in a sec, y'all.
Black on, get into it. Black on, look at that David Ford, right there, that's his thing. Black on, he don't know Tom. Look at that David Ford, that's his thing. He don't know Tom. Yeah. Yes! Oh, here we go. Oh, I can't see the demons. I can't see the demons, but I can see the light.
We are creating black luxury across this country.
Nighthawk Network presents Pastor Sean Love. Pastor Sean Love, devoted father and husband, a residing pastor at the River Ridge Bible Assembly in River Ridge, Michigan. Join him as he gives us messages from God's Word, Bible study, and encouragement. You can find him on YouTube under Sean Love.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Behind the Blue Curtain, Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Unscripted talk on police reform and race relations.
And now, Behind the Blue Curtain's law enforcement liaison, retired 32-year Chicago police veteran, homicide detective, former commander, sergeant, grant writer, lecturer, and adjunct professor, Joseph J. Mosley.
Behind the Blue Curtain's minister of common sense, former 12-year Fort Worth police officer, educator, voice of reason, and unapologetic practitioner of sound judgment, the young scholar, LaRonda Young.
Behind the Blue Curtain's co-host, fact checker, and investigative journalist, Isidoro Rodriguez.
What's going on? We are back. This is GameTime Audible. I am your host, at least one of them, Eric B. E. Beasy, and that is the sports guru right there, my man Hugh Lee. And we is talking about all this evening. A couple quick comments before we move on there, sir. We got Charles Child in the house. What's going on, Hugh Lee? He
Hey, what's up?
We also got Big Me chiming in yet again. Lord, I cannot what you will, but I just didn't get the idea of wanting to hurt me for a ball made of pig skin. I played on the streets, and because I'm one of the alphabet children, it was a point to hurt me or toughen me up. Just let me fry up some pork chops or buy some skins and hot sauce. Man, them pork skins was pretty good back in the day. Yeah. I don't too much mess with them now, but yeah, I feel you on that. But yeah, you know, some people, just because you big don't mean you automatically play football, okay? I know they used to try to make my brother be on the team. He was a big guy, and they was like, come on, bro. He's like, no, I ain't doing all that. Plus, the way Pat was set up. Well, anyway, I digress. Another story for another day, folks. We about to get into this thing. Okay, the main topic this evening, we're going to talk about the comments of one former Michigan State alum, Draymond Green. He had some things to say last night in regards to what happened previously in the game, during the game and whatnot when they played the Cavaliers. Keep in mind, they blew the doors off the Cavaliers last night. Beat them by about a good 35 or so. And so, of course, Draymond was supposed to be on the stage to discuss what happened in that game and how they won or whatnot. But Draymond had a little different ideology on what he wanted to discuss this evening. He has something else on his heart. Shout out to the Pork Skin Show, absolutely. So that being said, we're gonna have this discussion, and yeah, Mr. Pride Hunter, stand by. We're gonna have you call in on the VIP line so you can discuss what you think in regards to these videos we about to show. Or for those of you who missed that press conference last night, We about to give it to you live and direct as he said it. So here we go, folks.
I would like to talk about something that's really bothering me, and it's the treatment of players in this league. To watch Andre Drummond before the game sit on the sideline, then go to the back, and then come out in street clothes because a team is going to trade him. Because when James Harden asked for a trade and essentially dogged it, I don't think there was no surprise or there's no one's going to fight back that James was dogging it his last days in Houston. But he was castrated for wanting to go to a different team, and everybody destroyed that man. And yet a team can come out and say, oh, we want to trade a guy, and then that guy is to go sit. And if he doesn't stay professional, then he's a cancer, and he's not good in someone's locker room, and he's the issue. And we've seen situations of Harrison Barnes getting pulled off the bench. DeMarcus Cousins finding out that he's traded in an interview after the All-Star game. And we continue to let this happen. But I got fined for stating my opinion of what I thought should happen with another player. But teams can come out and continue to say, oh, we're trading guys, we're not playing you. And yet we're to stay professional. At some point, as players, we need to be treated with the same respect and have the same rights that the team can have. Because as a player, you're the worst person in the world when you want a different situation. But a team can say they're trading you, and that man is to stay in shape. He is to stay professional. And if not, his career is on the line. At some point, this league has to protect the players from embarrassment like that. We talk all of this stuff about you can't do this, you can't say that publicly. If you say that publicly, you're fine. Anthony Davis got fined, I think, $100,000 or something like that for demanding a trade publicly. But you can say Andre Drummond is getting traded publicly, and we're looking to trade him publicly, and he's to stay professional and just deal with it. But then when Kyrie Irving say, oh, my mental health is off, everybody go crazy about that too. Do you not think that affects someone mentally? As much as we put into this game to be great, to come out here and be in shape, to produce for fans every single night, and most importantly, to help your team win, do you think that doesn't affect someone mentally? But as players, we're told to, no, you can't say that, you can't say this, but teams can. It goes along the same lines of when everyone wants to say, oh, man, that young guy can't figure it out. But no one wants to say the organization can't figure it out. At some point, the players must be respected in these situations, and it's ridiculous, and I'm sick of seeing it. Y'all have a great night. I'll see y'all tomorrow or Wednesday.
Yeah.
And there you have it, folks. And his own
Pissed.
words. As you see, that brother was not happy at all. And he said a mouthful.
Yeah,
That
he did.
last minute thing, that spoke to volumes of what happened in at least the last 15 to 20 years of free agency and so on and so forth. There was a lot to be said. There's a lot to break down from that. But before we go there, first let me get this comment in. Not a Draymond fan, but what he said was the truth, and I'm glad he said it. And
Yes, sir.
he's not the only person that felt that way, cuz. In fact, we're going to have a couple of the fellas that used to play in the league chime in regards to what they thought of his comments.
Cavs technically have not said anything publicly. It was a report from Adrian Wojnarowski. And the second thing, the reason Anthony Davis was fined the money was because his agent, Rich Paul, said something where we've had a lot of other people go through reporters and the like. You are someone that is constantly sticking up for the players, and I'm curious what your reaction was to his statements there.
Well, I loved it because it's real. I think organizations get a pass. Players get castrated from fans. And we could talk about the many reasons why. right? If a player decides that he wants to leave in free agent, or if a player decides he don't want to be with the organization anymore for whatever reason, the fans in the city seem to take it personally. When the organization decides to make a move and do something, it's celebrated. Oh, they're doing it for the better of the team. And so for me, ownership uses, or organizations uses the media to get their messages out, right? Ain't no leaks. The leak is coming straight from the organization, right? Players can use their agent, or they have to do it themselves. And so now you get fined if Rich Paul come out and speak for Anthony Davis, or a player gets fined if he comes out and speak on it. So I definitely agree that it's a double standard, when it comes to ownership or organizations and players. And I know a lot of people out there are like, oh, you guys are getting paid a lot of money. It doesn't matter, but it does, because a lot of players and a lot of players in our league have families. And some players are told sometime, hey, you're not getting traded, then they get traded. Some players have to find out by the media. Some players I've heard stories of players finding out, been at a gas station, somebody walked up to them and said, hey, man, you just got traded to such and such. So what it boils down to me is it's no communication and there's no respect. The organizations have not looking at these players and just having respect for them and for who they are as men, for who they are as players, and having the communication with them to sit down and say, hey, listen, we're always going to do what's best for our organization, just like you as a player. Right now, we got a lot of people calling. You know what I mean? Like, we're looking to go in a different direction. Like, just have a simple conversation with a player. And hopefully, the Cavs and hopefully as well, the Pistons had those conversations with Blake Griffin and his agent. If that's the way that they're going, then that's the right way to have those conversations. But in the past, it's never been that way. And players get booed when they come back, when they leave in free agency, and organizations get celebrated when they give you a video when you come back after they've traded you. So I agree with Draymond. It is definitely a double standard.
What Draymond said was 1,000% correct. No two ways about it. In the Drummond case, though, the reason why he's not playing because they don't want him to get hurt. You're trade bait. We don't want you to get hurt. Sit down. In a perfect case, it would be like D-Wade said, have a conversation with him, but most of the time it's not like that. And then again, when you say, I want to be traded, he was right. You're a cancer, you're a problem, you don't work hard, you don't do this, you don't do that. And it is a double standard, but it's always been a double standard. That's why when I first heard the term, there's no love in this business, I believe that, because it happened to me a couple times. One time I left, I got booed. One time I got traded by eating cereal. Next time I got traded, only guy to keep it real with me was Steve Kerr. And this was toward the end of my career. He said, Shaq, it didn't work out. Boston called about you. I said, Steve Kerr, I appreciate it.
That was the only time.
That's the only time. That's the only.
Okay, y'all. So basically, that is it in a nutshell. I'm sorry the sound in the video ain't quite syncing up to what's being said and seen, but you get the point of the discussion. Bottom line is there's a lot to dig into with that, so let's get into it. Okay, now first of all, as they pointed out, this came from the fact that the player in question in that particular game that Draymond was talking about, Andre Drummond, it had been determined by ownership that they were going to trade him. And because they were going to trade him, they have determined that they are not going to have him dressed and basically sit in street clothes until they find a suitable partner to trade him with. So that way he's not going to be injured in any type of way. So he still has whatever full trade value he has. And basically part of what Draymond's issue was is the fact that they're just treating that person like he's just a commodity, a piece of cattle, so to speak, that you basically just put up and put in the pen so that when it's time to take them to the slaughter, you get those steaks and whatnot. The steaks is nice and tender. And he took exception to that, and I feel like he should have. What's your thoughts on it, Hugh?
I agree with him too, man. 100%, man. It's not right because when a player wants to leave, like when James Harden wasn't happy with his situation in Houston, he didn't feel like they were going to give him what he needed to win. And it was just unfortunate because they did try to give him some players and it just didn't work out. But when he figured out, oh man, I don't think I have enough to win over in Houston, I want to leave. I did everything I could for this franchise and this organization, and I just don't feel like I can do any more. Yeah, he dogged it, and he did a few things that was questionable, like coming to, camp overweight and playing the way he played. He wasn't playing like he really cared. because of the fact is, we talked about that before we even went on air. He didn't want to come back to Houston before the season started, and they wanted to hold him for ransom. No, we're not going to trade him. James Harden stays. It's like, well, yeah, of course, if you sign a contract, yeah, it's like you kind of put yourself in that situation. But, he definitely wanted to leave, and he did all he could to leave, and what he did worked. I just feel like when a player want to leave and they're honest and they're not being a locker room cancer or anything, they will put that title on you. Oh, he's a cancer. He doesn't want to stay here, but what has he done for this organization? And he put his all in that organization. I think he could have did a little better and ended his stint there better. But why would a player want to leave their locker room cancer or they're the bad guys? But if they wanted to trade James Harden, they would have just did the same thing they did with Andre Drummond, because he was in his basketball clothes. They sent it to the back. He came back in street clothes. They were just using him as bait right now because they're feeling like, what can we do to better our team? It's not about the player. It's about the organization. And they get praised for stuff like that, like we were just hearing. They get praised for doing those type of moves. But when a player wants to leave, they want to fine him for saying they want to be traded, and they treat them like, they're scum of the earth. And I don't think that should be tolerated. And I feel like the NBPA should step in at one point and at least try to help these players out, because they throw them to the wolves.
Right. And of course, we want to hear some of y'all guys' comments in regards to this subject. And like I said, there's other layers, and we're going to get into some of that as well. But for the time being, let's talk about that part of it. Again, let's look at it from this standpoint. Draymond Green, 3-time NBA champion, defensive MVP a couple times, got some cachet, a former Olympian, and all of that. So when he speaks, it's listened to a little differently. Let's just say that discussion had last night by Draymond happened with a second-year player or somebody that's coming off the bench, or Lord forbid, somebody just coming out the G League or something like that. It's not going to hit the same at that point. You're not going to consider what he had to say as gospel or anything of importance, because you feel like that person doesn't have the cachet to have that discussion. But because Draymond is who he is in the league and has platforms where he speaks out on things that go on, that's why this is such a firestorm right now throughout the league. And if you notice, basically, if you go and listen to some of the reports today after what was said, pretty much to a man, whether you are a former player or a current player, a lot of them agree with Draymond in regards to what's going on.
It speaks volumes.
Yep. Okay. Mita's chiming in on it. The idea of run, nigga, run, and shut up and dribble still remain the core essence of organized sports. Basically being paid for silence or for compliance, but that's business, right? And that is part of the issue, because, again, remember, these owners, and again, some people not even comfortable with the word owner, but in essence, they do own the team. They own the rights to the players and what have you, so they do technically own them. They look at these things differently than a basic person. Hey, we the fans, we have a different perspective. A lot of us look at it like, okay, it's just the damn billionaires fighting with the millionaires. But in the same token, you have to realize, when you are a multimillionaire in the league, that is one thing, to where you can dictate certain things on a certain level. But when you are a multi-billionaire in the league, your words speak way more volume. Your actions speak way more volume. So you can pretty much pick and choose as you please. As many of these owners who are part of that old boy network deal with the players as commodities and monopoly pieces to just move around and trade as they see fit to fit their bottom line. Meanwhile, they forget that these people are actually human. They have lives, they have families, they have children, they have established things in the community to where they've done stuff, and you can't just disregard all that in the way that you deal with these things. Some of these things need to be dealt with a lot more delicately than they have been in the past. So I definitely agree with Draymond in that regard.
We touched on another topic, man, that has exactly what to do with this right now, and it makes it, horrendous, man. I can't believe people even open their mouths and say that, man. But most times, and I'm not even trying to put race into this, but white people in general would say something that'd be so damn disrespectful in that sense, man. We talked about the Kyrie situation, where the young lady Jackie McMullen, she was saying basically that you don't really have no take in anything. You know, you don't have a voice and you can't say anything. You need to shut your mouth and you need to dribble. In that same situation with me, who just talking about, and she was basically saying your NBA owner's property because they pay you millions.
And
But
see,
she
that's part of the problem. I feel like because these players make multi-millions of dollars, that kind of disregards whatever feelings they have about what goes on with them. I don't think that's fair. Okay,
how come she's not getting fined for stuff like that?
right. Meech is saying, is there a union type of organization for sports players who speak on behalf of the players, or is it that way that we have sports agents? Yeah, there are unions in all the major sports, Meech, and there's player unions. There's also unions in general. There's unions for the sports agents. There's a variety of different entities that come into play with this. But bottom line is, it's about big bank take little bank. In other words, the people who own these teams, the multi-billionaires, what they say dictates a lot of what goes on. Maybe not so much in the NBA as in some of the other sports leagues, but to a great degree that. That's why they take exception to these players basically dictating their own terms in terms of where they want to go and how they want to get paid and who they want to play with, as opposed to just being allowed to do what they do. Because remember, there's also this thing where we're trying to keep the league fair in terms of all the players not going to the super teams or to all the cool spots where it's warm all the time, or the places where there's no state income tax and that type of stuff. Meanwhile, the smaller market teams, like say the Milwaukee's, the Detroit's, I mean, it is a smaller market team in terms of sports, truthfully. Teams like that, they suffer because in the end, when they're trying to get these big time players, they either have to overpay for them, which is why you get a situation like what's going on with Blake Griffin in Detroit, or you basically get a situation where you just can't afford to keep them for the production you're getting, like the situation in Cleveland. So there's that. Okay, H2 is saying sad, sad, sad.
Yes,
Or better
sad.
yet, how does a player go to the HR department when they have a grievance? Why does it take for players to go to the media in order for it to be heard? Well, see, that's the thing, because in the end, that's how sometimes the owners and the GMs play it in regards to that. Like Shaq said in part of that clip, oftentimes when people get traded, they don't even find out the way they should find out. Where you bring them in the office and tell them, okay, well, we're going in a different direction. Sorry, it didn't work out. We're going to try to meet your needs best way we can, but we got to move on and treat you like a man as opposed to just a piece of meat or a chess piece or what have you. Oftentimes, these players find out in the media. They find out from other people walking up to them on the street, like, hey, you heard you got traded? And they have no clue that it even was about to go on, let alone that it did. It's crazy.
And the owners will lie to you in your face and be like, man, we're not doing anything. Don't listen to that. That's just nothing but smoke and mirrors. We're not going to trade you. You're an asset to our organization. We love what you're doing here. We have a good community here that you're help building. We want you to be a part of our organization. They'll tell you that out of your face, man. You feeling, oh well, that's that. I'm really feeling good about that. Now I'm comfortable because they told me that I'm their best of interest. And then next thing you know, you look up right after they say that with a smile on their face. Not even a couple seconds later, you get traded. Like they were saying, man, you go to the gas station, pumping your gas, and find out, man. They have to do a better way. It got to be a better way. It got to be some type of grounds, man. Meet me halfway at least. If you want me to be a professional, like they were saying, you don't want me to act out because you put me on the bench, or you telling me that I'm going to be traded, or you just basically don't tell me I'm going to be traded. Then when I start to get caught up in my feelings and lash out, I'm a locker room cancer. I'm not good for the organization, and the organization get praised then for getting rid of me, but you don't even handle it, in a professional way, because you don't even care because I'm a part of your millions that you're trying to scratch off and get off the table because you don't feel like I'm a valuable asset to, your organization, and you want to move on from me. I mean, just give me the respect that I'm giving you,
Right.
And there has to be a respect barrier there.
Exactly. H2 said, I think media became a last resort. They wanted to be heard to not only the owners. Exactly, because at some point, you feel like your opinion ain't being properly dealt with either by the union or the teams in general. The media, the outlet is there for you to use to your advantage. because in the end, oftentimes, like I said, the GMs and the owners, they use it to their advantage to kind of make you to be the villain in some of these situations. But oftentimes, it is they who have miswronged that person. And so, depending on how it's portrayed and who says what first, then you determine who was right and who was wrong. What's so hard about being straight up? Yeah, that part. That part
Absolutely.
right there.
Absolutely.
But what about the fans? How does that play into these situations? The people are the ones who pay for these events, yet they have no say at all when this kind of changes happen. Now, see, here's the thing. I kind of disagree with you, Meech. I understand what you're saying, but remember, you do have some say so because in the end, if you don't like what your organization is doing, you do what a lot of what went on here in Detroit. Remember, we clamored for them to take the team from Auburn Hills and bring them back to the inner city so they could play in front of their actual home fans. But when we got the product that we got in return, the first couple of years before COVID, with the Pistons and the Red Wings, for instance, people was not going to those games. They was not about to pay that price for that big old shiny stadium to go in there and see a product that was subpar at best. No, no, no. So yeah, you hit those owners in the pocket. They want to make a profit with their team, but yet they're not giving you the type of team that you want to see. So in the end, if that's the case, you don't support that team. You don't go to those team games. You don't buy that team's gear. You don't give them any type of support in terms of what they have to do in the community or any of that. You say no, I'm not buying it. I don't like it. Either move on. Somebody that's really gonna care about the city and its fans. That's how you get them. But again, some people they just fans of the game, so it don't matter whether or not their team is good or not. Because oftentimes people come to some of these games not for your team, that's the team that's in that stadium, but for the opposing team. Think about some of the bigger games that's been here over the last several years. You knowing that our team ain't been all that. Whenever the Lakers come to town,
Yeah.
or when Golden State was in town when they was the champs. When LeBron would come in the building, seeing Cleveland is just a hop, skip, and a jump from here. Those would be the games where you would get some big crowds. But under normal circumstances with basic team A, not so much.
Yeah, I agree because we did that too ourselves before COVID hit. Me and one of my buddies, Yasser, wanted to go to some games, and we looked at every game like, "Hey, man, what games you want to go to?" And we looked for the Lakers games, we looked for the Clippers games, we looked for every big game and every big name team that will be here. We wasn't looking for no okey doke game. I wasn't going to a Pistons Charlotte game. I wasn't going nowhere like that. And I would have even went to a Milwaukee Bucks game just to see Giannis in person, man. You know, this just basically depends on who we play. We're not going to see our home team. We're going to see the other stars on the other teams. And that's sad because we're not producing enough players or we don't have a good product to put out there and present us as a city.
Okay, well, hold on, Hugh. We got our mans calling from the VIP line, Mr. Pride 100, to check in. What's going on, Pride?
What's up, P?
Yep. It's your boy Pride. He's saying what up to you, Hugh. Can you hear him?
Yes, sir. What's up, Pride? You all right?
Yes, sir. Guru, having another good show as usual.
We appreciate you, but yeah.
Watching our Pistons blow a 21-point lead to Chicago,
man. Man, I was not happy.
Yeah, we down 87-85. We was up by 21.
Yes, we were. Yes, we were. And so, again, that comes into play. Perhaps a Blake Griffin could have helped that scenario a little bit tonight, don't you think?
Yeah.
I'm the wrong one to ask. I
Yeah.
want Blake Griffin to hear.
Well, see, of course, I had to chime in with that because I know how you feel about Blake. But in terms of the situation itself, what's your thoughts, Pride?
We talking about Mr. Draymond Green?
Yes.
Oh, dude, I loved it. I know y'all don't really like the wrestling, but if y'all are familiar with the CM Punk Piper Bomb and the WWE some years ago,
I recall that.
Man, that was nothing but truth. I know the owners was probably cringing. Like, I can't believe he just said that. And see if we can find him. There must be a way to find him. No, that was nothing but truth, man.
Bottom line, they better not find that brother. That brother said nothing but should not be fined for that, especially since he did not speak out against his own team.
I wouldn't doubt if they try to look because I know that like embarrassed or pissed, particularly the Cleveland owners like real cocky. You remember stuff with LeBron, and he took out the two-page paper, article talking him and talking about he quit on them and we'll win the championship before you will. So yeah, I'm sure he probably ain't very happy.
Yeah, Mr. Gilbert. Yeah, he probably not looking too kindly on none of that statement. True enough.
What happened? You
But
see what happened in this point.
yeah, but overall, Pride, in terms of players dictating the good, bad, and the ugly in regards to them being traded or whatnot, or just being treated as fair individuals and letting them know ahead of time that that's going to go on. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm a big fan of where the players going where they want to go. Like I said, I don't like the old school. I remember, I used to get into like arguments or debates with people about LeBron leaving Cleveland, and then particularly the Kevin Durant leaving Golden State. Leaving Oklahoma City as a free agent, and people went nuts over it, as if he was supposed to find the worst team in the league to go to and start all over, versus going to a good team and winning some championships and some MVPs. So I'm all for the players, doing their thing. I will admit, like with Anthony Davis's case, I don't think if I was an owner, I would want that, where you have his agent saying he wants to trade and saying exactly where he wants to go. You know what I mean? That stirs up the pot, and that kind of takes the power away from, like you were saying, from like smaller market teams and such. So I do get that piece of it. But yeah, I'm all for the players going where they want to go and whatnot. Yeah, you got to treat them like men.
Yep. And any questions for him, Hugh?
Yeah, man. I want to know how you feel about the NBPA not really sticking up for these guys, man. It seemed like they just kind of let things happen, and it seemed like the issue's not being forced, man. When you're supposed to have a union, they supposed to be backing you up and giving you the leeway, man. I just don't really feel like any of the actual, organizations have that right now, where they have like their union sticking up for them, man. And definitely the NBA, man, because they went through leaps and bounds to get to where they're at. And for them not sticking up or even saying anything to the actual owners, how do you feel about that? But it seems like it's just the players out there and every man for themselves.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I don't know, like I say, it's weird. I love the NBA, and the NBA is probably arguably the best at it, but here you can see, two situations, going on in the same week where, like you said, the players are done kind of wrong. But you know what, I take that back, because from what I've read in Blake Griffin's issue, I heard he was talked to along with his agent, that he knew, whatever's going on. And I'm not positive, but I think they're going to just let him stay home to avoid even being at the arena, sitting there in street clothes watching this. So, yeah, but the Andre Drummond situation was terrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that never should happen.
Yeah, just the way they dealt with that was bad. Now, okay, before I let you go, I kind of will go another way with it. So just hold on there for a second, Pride. Let me get this comment in right quick. H2 is saying there are some former players, but not many that still have a voice. Because Big Meech is asking, here's a thought. What about former players? Do you think they will have an influence on the game, or is it a matter of their going and it's a wrap for their thoughts? Well, see, here's the thing. That's why I played that particular clip, Meech, where you had Dwayne Wade, three-time NBA champion, and then that is three, right? Yeah, he had three, and then Shaq, a four-time NBA champion, having a discussion about it. These are people that are major influence in the league, future Hall of Famers. Actually, Shaq is a Hall of Famer. Dwayne Wade will be one soon enough. And, they chimed in on it, and, they have influence in the game because of the money they made, the platform that they had, the type of players that they were in charge of all of that. But in the same token, it still does not give them the cachet to dictate what the owners do. Remember, the money is the power. The 1%, they run not only the country itself, but they run sports as well. So a lot of that comes into play with it all. Okay,
yeah.
Saying, imagine if Isaiah Thomas, John Sally, hell, even Dennis Rodman, imagine if they came to a practice or had to sit down with the GM and other powers that be. Damn, I know that's wishful thinking. But what I'm saying is like my old job calling me to help them solve a problem when you fired me, really. Why should I help you? So in other words, Meech, you're pretty much saying that they should have some type of commission or some type of older players union, which they do actually, that talks about the pensions and the things that should go on with older players in the league. But basically, get them influence as to how they deal with some of these free agent situations and whatnot. If any league did that, it would be the NBA. They tend to be more progressive in regards to how they deal with things. But that being said, the people with the big money, why they gonna listen to these peons? They the ones that made them rich, you know?
Right.
But yeah, here's my question for you, Pride. Now keep in mind, we talking NBA, but of course, you know, in the NFL, it's a whole different scenario. A lot of these players get done the same way, but the problem with that is they don't have any guaranteed contracts for the most part in the NFL. You know, you do have certain situations where some of the players have guaranteed money, so that comes into play, and salary cap considerations and whatnot. But in the end, you can up and trade those players or even release them whenever you get them damn ready for the most part. And what can they say about it? And of course, you go about in the media, because then when it comes time for you to play for another team, you end up in a situation where you might get blackballed by Kaepernick or something to that effect. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's part of the business. It's horrible, particularly in football. Like you said, you could have a 7-year contract for $200 million, but only 80 of it's guaranteed. You get that, the bulk of it in the first 3 years. They decide they don't want you. They can literally just cut you, and then you have to pray someone else wants you and sign you for scraps. That is horrible. Particularly, at least in, like you said, the NBA have guaranteed contracts that prevent certain things. I think some people just don't like truth. I recall back when Mark Cuban had just bought the Dallas Mavericks, and they looked like they were getting better. And long story short, I remember he was talking about bringing new players to the team, and he said a comment basically, everyone on this team is negotiable to be traded except Dirk Nowitzki. And I don't know if y'all know this, that's how Steve Nash ended up leaving, going to Phoenix.
Yeah, I recall that.
He was going to get signed and possibly traded somewhere he didn't want to be. So he said, I'll just leave in free agency and sign with Phoenix. And that's what kind of broke up the first decent Dallas team they had. So I think a lot of times people don't want to hear the truth. I'm sure the players do, but I don't think the media even wants to hear the truth.
Yep.
Somebody saying that. Just think if someone said that right now, that this whole team is negotiable for trades except this player. And I can already see the media attacking you. You're singling out this guy. You're making these other guys feel uncomfortable. Just, I don't know, man. It's a big mess. But hopefully they can clear some stuff up after this. Trayvon made some excellent points.
Right. Well, keep in mind that did happen just a couple of years ago. Remember that whole debacle with the whole Lakers and Pelicans situation and dealing with Antonio Davis, and you basically let the team know there with the Lakers, like, okay, LeBron stays, the rest of y'all is trade bait. Deal with it. So there's that.
Yeah. See, like that was still a little weird only because the agent spoke out about him being unhappy, demanding to be traded, and then saying what team he wanted to be traded to. So I can understand the other owner saying, wait a minute here, we definitely don't want that to happen.
Right. And
I don't know. I can see both points, but overall, I agree with Draymond. And maybe he needs to, when Chris Paul retires, if he's interested, maybe he needs to take over the players part of the CBA or whatever, be the president.
Right. Of course, that's if he don't go ahead and take that seat from Charles Barkley over at TNT. But again, that's another story. But yeah, anyway, thanks for checking in. Yep, thanks for checking in, Pride. That's my people's is Pride Hunter. He's been on the show before, of course. You remember him from a few weeks back, but also he is one of the new members of the Nighthawk Network. He soon will have his show, The Gospel According to Pride, coming to airways near you soon. Looking forward to that. That's some of that quality discussion you'll get from him. And yes, he does talk wrestling, and we do. We just ain't trying to take the whole show with it, Pride. You know what it is. I'm looking forward to your show when you talk about it, though. I'll be in the house comment.
Yes, we'll chime in.
I remember that night. That was crazy. But anyway, back to the situation at hand. Yeah, Draymond, brother. I ain't mad at you because in the end, they do treat the players like crap when it comes to those types of things. And I'm glad you spoke out, and I'm hoping that in the days to come, some of your fellow players will speak out on your behalf as well. So there's that. But anyway, we're about to take a commercial break. We got a couple more topics to get into before we end tonight. Our next topic is going to involve this beautiful young sister right here. Miss Serena Williams. She is playing in Australian Open tonight. We're gonna check in to see what the progress is of that match and talk about her place in the history of the game, but also her place in African American history. It's Black History Month, so I'll talk about our Black American sister and talk about where she fits into that scenario. So that being said, we will be back after these commercial breaks. This is Game Time Audible. There's the sports guru Hugh Lee. I'm your boy EB. We will be back after this commercial message.
This is the Nighthawk Network. Our voices for our people. Nighthawk Network.
Hello, hello, hello. It's another glorious day, my tea sippers, and you know what time it is. I hope you have all of your comfort together because it's time to dish tea. And you're dishing tea, darlings, with Big Meat.
Can't wait. It's time to dish tea with Big Meat. It's time to dish tea with Big Meat. It's time to dish tea with Big Meat. It's time to dish tea with Big Meat.
Darling.
Have you been scrolling Facebook and looking for that quick sports fix? Want a quick peek of what's going on in the latest sports news? Check out Pure to the Game sports blog with the sports guru, Hugh D. Lee. He'll get you together. Check it out. Follow it on Facebook. Make sure you like it. The views and or opinions expressed here on Game Time Audible is that of the host and or guests, and does not necessarily reflect those of the Nighthawk Network or its affiliates. Viewer and listening discretion is advised. What up, folks? We are back. Game Time Audible. There's the sports guru right there, Hugh Lee. I'm your boy, Big E Beezy, and we are talking sports with y'all tonight. Before we move forward, let me address this here. Crazy question. Is it required for a player to have an agent? No, actually, Helena, it is not a requirement that a player has an agent, but it's kind of viewed in terms of that as how people view people that go to court. And if you allow the lawyer you choose not to have one to represent yourself, You know that old saying, they say a person who has himself for a lawyer that represents himself as a fool. You know how that goes. A person that is his own lawyer is a fool for a client, something to that effect. But nonetheless, yeah, because most people don't know about what agents do in terms of upping the prices and getting you your proper money and making the deals in regards to your shoes and all that other stuff. That's something that they basically do not suggest you do. But some people, they actually have like their mom or their dad or somebody in the family be an agent because they had them read up on what we need to know so that we can get all our monies properly dealt with. And there's that. But more than likely, you would have an agent because those people, because they're trained to know what they need to know in regards to that, they would be able to get you more money than you probably could get yourself or somebody in your family could get you. So that's why most people do have an agent. But no, from my knowledge in automated sports, you do not have to have an agent to be a player. Okay, what is the call-in number? Actually, you have the call-in number. You have the VIP line. It is my number. You know what it is. So if you want to call in, by all means, do the H2. You are part of the fam. You may do so. Well, it seems like some agents don't have their players' best interest at heart. And that goes without saying. It's about the money, honey. It's about that cash shoulder, the mean green. Remember, most of these agents get 10%, in some cases 15 and 20% on whatever they get their clients. So that could figure out to tens and hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of time. So absolutely, they're trying to get it in for their benefit more than the player. That definitely is what the situation is. But nonetheless, we about to move on here. We about to talk about this young lady right here. Yep, this lady, Serena Williams, born right here in Michigan. Of course, grew up in Compton, California, became a tennis superstar, became a world icon, became one of the greatest athletes in our time, if not all time. And right now, she is playing in the Australian Open. You got any update on that, Hugh?
Right now, nothing's really going on, man. It's been kind of shaky. You know, that was one of the first things I did was try to check and see what was going on. Okay, now I'm looking in. Now it definitely started, man. It's still kind of fresh, man. They in the first set, nothing really major.
Okay, well,
But
keep
yeah,
it
they definitely started.
delays down there in Australia this evening, so that's part of why the match did not start. It was initially supposed to start at 7 o'clock p.m. our time, but because of rain delay, they were not able to get it started. So now they're just not getting started. And she is playing the number one player in the world right now, Miss Osaka, Naomi Osaka from Japan, the last basically Grand Slam winner because she won the U.S. Open last year. So this being the first Grand Slam of this year, they are playing now, and the two of them are in the semifinals at the Australian Open, and the winner will take on the winner of the other match between the number two player and I forget who she's playing. Basically, she's actually playing an American, but she's not ranked quite as high. So there's pretty much saying that whoever wins this match between Serena and Osaka more likely will be the heavy favorite to win the match on Saturday for the final. And keep in mind, if the person we're looking at, Miss Serena Williams, wins that match, she will become tied with the person who has the most Grand Slam titles, Miss Moody, because she then will have 24 like she does. And at that point, we will have to have that discussion as to whether she is not only the greatest tennis player in terms of women, but perhaps the greatest tennis player of all time, period, man or woman. Now, of course, needless to say, they're definitely saying that she is the greatest African American player of all time because between her and her sister, they've won over 31 major titles and, of course, several other titles along the way. Also, keep in mind that it's very unusual for anybody to be playing in their late 30s in professional tennis. More times than not, when you are 38, 39, you may be good enough to beat basic Club Pro A or some of the also brands on the tour, but to be a major player and be in line to still win championships after playing over 22 years as a professional tennis player, that is in and of itself a great accomplishment. Don't you think so, Hugh?
Not only that, man, I think that it's basically set the standard, man. I think more people are going to try to do that, man. I don't know how it worked for them, but she still play at a high level. at her age, man. Of course, she had a couple of injuries to set her back, but I still feel like she's the best, tennis player, like you said, male or female of all time. It doesn't matter about if she goes on or if she wins another one. It's just what she's already accomplished. She's like the standard of the sport now, man. Whenever you think of tennis, you're not going to think of nobody else but Serena Williams right now. I don't care whether it's male or female.
Right, and keep in mind there is some great male players that's still playing tennis. You got the Roger Federers and Rafael Nadal's of the world, who basically have won more titles than any of the other men. Of course, them and Djokovic. But also, you have to keep in mind that in terms of what we got going, okay, we got another person calling in. Hold on. Hello, GameTime Audible. Who's speaking? H2 is in the building. Let the hologram in the house. What's going on, H2? What it do?
What's going on? What's up, Mr.
All right, you called to chime in on the topic or some of the other stuff we talked about. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
I most definitely want to talk about Serena Williams. I most definitely think she's the best tennis player, male or female, of all times, period.
I agree.
The only thing that bothers me is that she hasn't made as much money as some of her male counterparts.
And see, and here's the thing. I'm glad you brought that up, because keep in mind, one of the things that also makes Serena stand apart in terms of her counterparts is the fact that she has fought for payment equality among champions. Remember, when she first won the Wimbledon, the men were making 3 and sometimes 4 times more money than their female counterparts in terms of who won, second place, and what have you. So because she spoke out, her and her sister in particular, in regards to the pay not being fair, even though they're playing the same number of rounds and what have you in the tournament, that in turn led to players getting equal play on both the men and women's in terms of the major championships. And she played a major role in that.
Right, and remember, she also spoke out against how the umpires and everything treated female players differently than they treated male players.
Absolutely, because we all remember actually her first match when she played Miss Osaka in the U.S. Open a few years ago, when she basically had an issue with the umpire, and that led to her losing points, which ultimately cost her to lose her cool and lose that match. So yeah, we definitely have to talk about that.
Right, and I wanted to let everybody know, I admire Serena, but you know what? I always have to give homage, and a lot of people may not remember, I always have to give homage to people like Arthur Ashe and Thea Gibson and even Miss Dina Garrett.
Absolutely. Some of the best African-American players from years gone by. That is a very good point. I'm glad you mentioned that.
And also, let's not forget James Blake.
Yes, him as well. Also a pretty good tennis player. And we got a couple people that's out here now in terms of the men game in the U.S. that are people of color. And don't forget Miss Osaka, who is also a woman of color as well, who has spoke out against racism. Remember her stand when she had the U.S. Open championships and she wore the mask with each person's name that had been killed due to police violence. The Breonna Taylors and the James Blakes and the George Floyds of the world. So she's to be commended as well for using her platform in that regard.
I just think we're in a time that, like I said, I'm extremely grateful for Serena and Venus for all the work that they've done on the court, and what a lot of people don't always recognize is all the work that they've done and the work that they still continue to do off the court. Because people have to realize that Serena, she's not only a great tennis player, she's a mother, she's a wife, and a lot of people don't realize that she also suffers from migraine headache.
And other illnesses as well, her and her sister for that matter. So they overcome that as well. Not to mention, and then remember from the environment that they came from here in Michigan, moving out to Compton, California, which definitely wasn't the best neighborhoods, training with their father, Richard Williams, with subpar equipment and whatnot, and still coming to a point to leaving from that place to being not only some of the better tennis players, but perhaps 2 of the best tennis players to ever played the game.
Right, but they also showed you that, when you get to a certain point and you are blessed to have one of your parents or whomever be your coach, sometimes you grow beyond that.
Absolutely. Yep. So there's that. Thank you for chiming in, H2. We appreciate you.
All right, let me go back to the. Did y'all talk about the goats already?
Okay, no, we didn't get into that conversation.
Oh, good.
All right. All right, you got it. Okay, that is Helena Hologram from that fine show, Hey Bitches, that you see Monday, 9 p.m. here on the Nighthawk Network. Thank her for tuning in and chiming in. We appreciate it. Hugh, what did you have to say about some of the things you talked about?
Definitely appreciate how she put the Arthur Ashes and the different black people who, paved the way for the Serenas and Venus, man, because if it wasn't for those people before her, they wouldn't be in the situation they're in. But for Serena too, and we talked about that before we got on the show, to fight for just not her rights, but all female rights to make more money and feel like they're being mistreated financially, which we see it all the time, man. It was just good to see that she basically is one of the ambassadors of the sport. And I feel like she deserved that now. And to be in the situation she's in and to be one of the vocal leaders as a black female in the sport, man, that speaks volumes. Just happy. I'm damn proud of her, man. So regardless of whatever goes on in these matchups, I just feel like she's definitely still one of the best to ever play the game. And I just feel like she's basically the standard right now. If it wasn't for her right now, the sport, I don't think really will have as much popularity as it does right now. So yeah, man, I like to give her respect, man, all due respect, and for all the black athletes who's playing in tennis.
Right, because keep in mind, there's a reason why several more thousand people will watch this particular match this evening, considering what time is going on, than they would any other match. Because in the end, Serena's there, and she's the GOAT, and she plays a very powerful and exciting style of tennis that people enjoy. Not just people of color, but people who are tennis fans in general. And then also keep in mind some of her contributions outside of the sport. She's done a little acting. She's been an activist in regards to some of the things going on in our African American community. She's a fashion designer. This outfit that you're seeing her now, she helped design herself, and basically made it a tribute to Florence Griffin Joyner, a talented African American athlete in her own right. So there's that. And like I said, I'm very interested to see what her life outside of tennis will be in terms of her platform and how she will use it at that point, whenever she decides to retire. Because right now, based on some of her play, she might hang on and maybe even longer than her sister, who at the age of 41 is still playing competitive tennis and winning a round or two here and there and still making money at the sport. After all those years, remember, Venus didn't start till she was like 14 years old, and she's still playing competitive tennis almost 25 years later. That is crazy.
And I like this matchup tonight too, man, because I didn't think about it till now. It's like the GOAT versus the kid all over again in the tennis standpoint.
Exactly.
You see the passion of the torch.
You got the best player of her time against the best player of all time. So yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to checking out some of that once we get off the air here. But yep, basically there you have it. Serena Williams, Black American icon to be proud of for sure. So that being said, folks, we are going to move on in the show. And what we're going to do is when we come back from this last commercial break, we're going to leave it to you guys to talk about what we talk about next. So in other words, if you have a favorite athlete or subject that's sports related that you want us to speak on for a few minutes, we're going to do that after we get back from this break. This is Game Time Audible. There's the man himself, Hugh Lee, the sports guru. I'm your boy E. Beasy. We will be back after these commercial messages from our proud people here at the Nighthawk Network.
What's up, everybody? Eric Buckner here. You know me as EB, Young Easy, Eric Buck, all that good stuff. Anyway, I'm here to kick it with y'all about this little podcast I've been doing. You know, I talk trending topics. I talk about the stuff we as people need to talk about. I talk about some things actually that people kind of want to shy away from because we got to have these discussions, folks. That's how we get better. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, hold on. Yeah, so anyway, you know, I do it Tuesdays, 8:30 p.m. You can check it out on Facebook, on YouTube. You know, it's a good show. I say get into it. Yeah, you want to know the name of the show? You said, hold on. Hey, you, get off my lawn. Yeah, anyway, that's the name of the show, by the way. Get off my lawn. Check it out Tuesdays, 8:30 p.m. Let me go handle this.
What's going on, y'all? We are back. GameTime Audible. It's your boy Hugh Lee, the sports guru, and E. Beasley in the house talking sports for y'all this evening. We are now going to talk about what you guys want to talk about in terms of sports and talk on that for the next few until we head on out. So go ahead. The floor is yours. Put it out there. Let's see what you got for us to talk about, and we're going to go there with you. Okay, look like we're going to have H2 shut it off for us. She says, Bill Russell being an authentic GOAT. She wants to talk about that. Here we go. So we got Bill Russell. He spoke out as he sometimes do, him along with some of the older players in the league, when we start to have these conversations about who is the GOAT, in other words, the greatest of all time in sports in general and also sports in particular leagues. And people are pointing out that when we come to talk about championships, seeing that Tom Brady now has 7, pretty much more than any other NFL player. There are other players who have had even more championships. That person in particular being Bill Russell, keeping in mind that he played for 13 years in the NBA, and in 13 years, he won a whopping 11 championships, a couple of them as not only a player, but a player coach, which is astonishing and remarkable in and of itself. So, yeah, he definitely is in that discussion. But then we also have to remember, okay, does it take championships for you to be considered the greatest of all time? I think many people think so, but in some cases, maybe not. Think about it. Right now, LeBron James is the 3rd leading scorer in the history of the NBA. Granted, he has 4 championships. The person that's ahead of him in terms of scoring is the person who arguably is the best power forward of all time, and one Karl Malone. But remember, Karl Malone has how many championships, you?
0.
That is correct. So does that take away from his greatness? Some people would definitely say so. Me, I say no. But in the same token, would I put him in the discussion as one of the top 5 players of all time in the NBA? Cannot do that. Cannot do that. Let's look at the person who is the number 1 all-time leading scorer in the NBA. One Lou Alcindor, also known to the world as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Think about the entirety of his work. He was a 3-time champion in high school. He was a 3-time NCAA champion and MVP and the best player in the NCAA. He also was a person who went on to come to the league, was an MVP 6 times, was a 6-time NBA champion, and is the all-time leading scorer in the history of the league. And yet, when we talk about the GOATs and greatest of all time, he does not get his proper due. Do you agree, Hugh?
Yeah, man, he's one of the better players of all time, man, and not just a player, but an actor, man. You know, y'all know what he did to Bruce Lee for all my kung fu fans out there. But no, back to the point in hand, I just feel like he's one of the more dominant players, man. And I enjoyed him in LA, man. I was a huge Lakers fan as a kid. You know, don't hold that against me, but I still feel like, man, just what he brought to the game, his element, man, and that skyhook, man, to this day is one of the best, you know, of all time. Like one of the shots that was unstoppable, you know. And I just feel like that guy, man, should get more respect.
You realize you live in Detroit, right?
Oh yeah.
Man, bro, come on now.
But he definitely should get some respect for what he's done and what he's accomplished, man. Definitely appreciate what he brought to the game. But then at the same time, too, Michael Jordan can have that argument too. Yeah, I believe Kareem was he's the leading scorer of all time, but it was just when Jordan came in the game, he took the game by storm, man. Nobody expected for him to come out and do what he did. And it was just a generational thing, man. You know, a lot of times when I do bring up Bill Russell, man, that's what people will say to me. They cut me off of my tracks. And they'll be like, well, Hugh, man, you wasn't old enough to see him play or even know what was going on with him. I said, but then, you know, we got NBA TV and a lot of things and the resources now, more resources that can tell us anything. And when I say, what about Bill Russell? They like, oh, man, that wasn't in our generation. They try to stop it in the tracks and say that. I know you heard that in conversations too before, E.
Right. And then, of course, you know, this name comes up oftentimes when we talk about NBA GOATs.
Yeah.
Because basically he was, at the time, the most dominant player in the history of the league. You know, he, in terms of scoring, he won several scoring titles. And, of course, in terms of a single season, he had the highest average in the history of a season. There was also a season where he not only led the league in scoring, but led the league in assists as well.
That's impressive for a dude his size, man.
Absolutely. And just think, if he actually was a decent free throw shooter, he would have had a few games where he might have even got close to that 100 that he put on the Philly one night long ago. So there's that. Also, okay, let's not just talk about basketball. There's some of these other discussions. Keep in mind, Simone Biles, interestingly enough, came out recently discussing why, when we talk about GOATs, we only seem to talk about male athletes. Why don't we often talk about female athletes in terms of the GOAT? And keep in mind, when she named some of the female athletes in particular, the Serena Williams and the Lapidos and the gymnastic people, like the Dominique Dawsons and stuff of the world, she interestingly omitted herself. She's a damn pretty good gymnast in her own right, you know. But yeah, in terms of GOATs, we don't talk about the Diana Taurasi's and the people of that nature that are dominating their sports and are considered the best of all time in their sports just because they're women athletes. I do kind of understand her thought process in that. Well, she most def is. Like I said, it ain't no doubt in my mind, she is the best gymnast in the history of the planet as far as I'm concerned. And keep in mind, I'm old enough to have seen Nadia Comaneci when she got the perfect tens and whatnot. But not hey, Nadia, she couldn't mess with us, Simone. I'm telling you. Not to mention Simone. Oh yeah. Her little self can oh yeah. But anyway, nasty old pervert. Yeah, so there's that. But okay, and of course that's bad because I do want to talk women's sports, and unfortunately, when we make little sexist comments like that, that does take away from the narrative. So I apologize for that, y'all. But okay, and like Flo Hyman was a GOAT in volleyball, exactly. And some of those sports that don't get talked about enough, that's part of the problem in of itself because they don't get the type of exposure that the major sports get, unless of course we're talking Olympics or something that was just so extra spectacular that you have no choice but to talk about it. That's part of why those things don't get discussed as well. But yeah, then you have baseball, and remember, the Hall of Fame has just decided to recognize players in the Negro leagues as part of the Hall of Fame. So think about some players and what they accomplished in the Negro leagues. And if they had been allowed to play in Major League Baseball, how some of these records that we have now in baseball probably would not have stood at all. When you add the Josh Gibsons, who's said to have hit over 800 home runs in the Negro leagues, and the people like the great Satchel Paige, who basically said they say that dude was pitching in his 50s in the major leagues. You know what I'm saying?
Unheard of, man.
And was still quite effective, I might add, still throwing in the estimated mid to upper 90s with the fastball. So imagine if he had played in the league. Remember, they had games where they would go out and play the Negro leagues in these little exhibition games. And oftentimes it said that they was wiping the floor with these folks. So no, they wasn't in no hurry to bring them in the league because they knew they would be dominant. There's that. Lisa Hernandez in softball, exactly. Jenny Finch, don't forget Jenny Finch too, the softball pitcher that went to a couple of Olympics and won a couple gold medals. So yeah, there's a lot of people that don't get their just due in regards to being the GOAT, the Florence Griffin Joyners and the people of that nature, you know. Willie Mack the third. Okay. The second time that this has been brought up by my cousin. Cousin, you know you got us on that one. You know I don't have no idea who Willie Mack the third is. You're gonna have to on that. You just don't this and maybe purposely so. We got Monica Abbott with softball. Okay, I'm familiar with that. But Willie Mack III, please educate the people and educate us on who Willie Mack III is. Because quite frankly, I have no idea. And because we don't have the chance to look that up properly, you got us on that one. So sprinkle us with some of that knowledge, cuz we appreciate you. But yeah, like I said, just in terms of these GOATs conversations, you have to look at the leagues and what is going on, who was playing at the time, how many teams there were. All these things are relative. They say that the steroid people don't count in terms of baseball, but back in the day, a lot of your favorite players, the Babe Ruths and stuff of the world, it's been said that they were on hallucinogens and big time drinkers and all that type of stuff. So there's that.
Yeah, man, I feel like that's crazy too, because a lot of those guys who were all-time greats in sports, man, they don't bring up their issues, man, like that, man. We knew that my man's Babe Ruth was a huge alcoholic, man. But they they'll never bring none of that stuff up, like we don't look and do our research, man. But I feel like as far as the athletes too, man, and I give credit to Simone Biles, man. She's one of the best that ever, in her sport.
Okay, Willie Mack III is a golfer, so that would explain why he is on my cousin's radar, him being an avid golfer. But what about him in particular, cuz, that you want to talk about in terms of Willie Mack?
Yeah, his accolades.
I mean, do you have any idea about Willie Mack III over there, Hugh?
That's all I seen myself. I just kind of glanced in and heard about him as far as a golf player.
Okay.
But I haven't really heard too much about his accolades or anything that really what he accomplished.
All right. Let's see. You again. I understand it, cuz. Come on now, hook us up. Hook us up. What's going on? Stop playing with us, man. But yeah. In terms of the GOAT conversation, it's very relative. Okay. And of course, when we talk of GOATs, let us not forget one Eldrick Tiger Woods and his dominance as golf. Because in the end, think about it. When he was in his prime and rolling and basically winning 10 times as many tournaments as anybody else in a particular
really off on the map.
I mean, the way he dominated certain tournaments, winning by 8 and 10 and 12 strokes, to where it's like, okay, in the end, he in the tournament, what to do. Just his presence was intimidating. And of course, enough people do not talk about this particular individual because, of course, we don't talk about hockey nearly as much. But the great Wayne Gretzky, you got to consider him one of the GOATs.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, because in his prime, he was the most dominant player in the NHL by far. I mean, he was leading the league in scoring and in points and in assists. And basically, his teams, they dominated for a certain period in the 80s and 90s. With the Edmonton
went to.
He went to the Rangers and in LA as well. He was, pretty much a dominant player throughout his entire career. Strokes excellent. Okay. Y'all really not helping.
My man still.
Okay, well, you already know you got us on that one, cuz my beanie off to you. But so next time we do this, we'll be able to talk about Willie Mack, because I don't like not knowing stuff. You got me on that one, cuz I admit it. But you frustrate me though. Let us know about Willie Mack. There you go. He is saying, Willie Mack 11 times at Bethune-Cookman. A fine HBCU. Never had money to play. Every tournament costs money. Just received a Charlie Cypher exemption to play on PGA this weekend. That's good. I am very proud of that brother. I'm assuming he's a brother. And hopefully he does well in that tournament. It'd be a hell of a story if he wins. Okay, he said he has over 45 wins on the Black Tour. And that's something that people don't talk about a lot, that there's an African-American tour. And that's this other tours, period, because there's the Nike tour. There's a couple other kind of semi-pro tours in golf that don't get talked about a lot, So there's that. Pele in soccer, yes, he also will be considered one of those.
About Pele.
Right. And of course, Donald, who died last year, he was also a great soccer player in his time that don't get talked about. And some of the GOATs in soccer today, when you talk about Messi, for instance, Leonardo Messi, one of the
I seen
greatest.
what that brother make, man.
And of course, Ronaldo. We know about that guy, Cristiano
Mhm.
Ronaldo. Not only one of the best soccer players, but one of the richest athletes, if not the richest athlete in the world in terms of what he makes salary wise, at over $100 million a season.
That's
Crazy.
ridiculous.
Yeah, people don't understand that some of these soccer players and some of these soccer teams, they are they are the biggest franchises in the world in terms of sports. They're worth $5 and $6 and $7 billion, some of these soccer teams and some of the leagues. So there's that. But nonetheless, folks, we're gonna wrap it down here. We're getting about to that time. And like I said, we're gonna let you get back to what you was doing. We appreciate you joining the show and showing love. Okay, is he married? Charlie color barrier in golf. Okay. So yep, there's that. I appreciate you sprinkling us with that knowledge, cuz. Good looking out. Like I said, my cousin is an avid golfer. And I imagine he wants to come up here one day and take me to the course and either teach me or just embarrass me and wipe the floor with me. Because like I said, I played very little golf. My stroke is terrible. I've played maybe a couple half rounds over the course of these years. So, putt golf, I get you, but in golf, you probably got me on it, cuz I ain't even got no clubs, man. But we still gonna play one day because I like the game, and I did say that once I got to be a particular age. Now that I am a proud AARP member, that I was gonna learn the game of golf because golf is for older people like ourselves to thrive in. Thank you guys so much. Had an awesome evening. Yeah, we appreciate you too, H2. Thanks for calling in.
Always, thank you for everything.
For calling in. We're going to have to give you the VIP line, because as much as you be in the comments, we got to let you call in and chime in one time soon. So, when we come back after a hiatus, we're probably going to let you get that number so you can call in. And I got my first coronavirus vaccine. All right, cuz, good for you. You doing all right? Any side effects or whatnot? Let us know right quick before we end out. But yeah, I'm glad you were able to do that. Hopefully, you are able to get the second one in a timely fashion. You know how some of these places are not dealing with the coronavirus vaccine distribution quite as well as we had hoped. But Hugh, if you don't mind, I'm calling the one and only audible that we had this evening. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, Omaha, kill. I'm gonna leave the sports world for a minute, and we got to give a special shout out to my man Chief Devlin, that fine chief of the Hewitt, Texas Police Department, because he, of course, along with his fine staff and many other people down there in Texas, are dealing with some troubled times right now. It's some bad weather situations down there in Texas that have led to many power outages and people actually dying from being cold and all that. So I send my
Easy.
prayers and thoughts with you, sir, Chief Devlin, and please be safe down there as you do your job. And remember, Chief actually is at, not to tell too much of the situation, but he's actually working as chief of police down there in Hewitt, Texas. And meanwhile, his home has not had power all week. So he's basically had to go to the job and deal with his other things and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? But he's still doing a fine job, and I appreciate him. And I'm praying for you and our other people down there in Texas that look at the show. Please be safe, and hopefully your situation will turn around soon. I know y'all got another bad storm coming your way, unfortunately, but they say by the weekend y'all start to have some closer to the normal temperatures that y'all used to down there. But of course, that's probably going to lead to other issues in terms of flooding and perhaps some of the problems that we have here in Detroit in regards to water main breaks and that, because Texas ain't used to that. So there's that. H2 also sending her prayers out to Texas. So that being said, yeah, you got to send my prayers out. Yeah, any comments on that there?
Man, definitely sending prayers out to Texas, man. These are rough times, man. Well, my aunt telling me Alabama had like ice storms and they got snow, and you hear in Oklahoma and all these cities like Texas, man, you'd have never thought nothing like that would go on in Texas, man. But with their power outage and the things that's going on over there right now, all I can do is send prayers and pray that everything be okay over there, man. You definitely got our support.
Absolutely. So yeah, all in all, folks, if you are anywhere within the Nighthawk Network and having some issues with the weather, our prayers are with you as well. Between COVID and everything else is going on, that's a lot to have to deal with in of itself. But now you have
Amen.
that to contend with as well. So hopefully, whatever issue it is, it will be over soon, and you can get back to some sense of whatever this new normal is going to be. But anyway, like I said, folks, we will not be here next week. We are taking a hiatus. We will be taking a little break to get other things done, but we will be back in a couple weeks. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the spring training going on because baseball will be up and running by then. We're also going to talk about free agency in the NFL and talk about what's going on in terms of the All-Star break. We'll also have some talk about the upcoming tournament in the NCAA. There'll be a lot to talk about, so we will definitely get into it with you guys. So before I wrap it up, Hugh, any final thoughts?
Yeah, man. Definitely appreciate everything you've been doing, man, as far as plugging in the Pure to the Game blog, man. Definitely gonna keep that going for y'all, keeping y'all fresh and all the news that goes on. Y'all will know about it. Most times I'll get it a little bit before your mainstream places out there. Definitely appreciate everybody who following. I try to make all the news possible, man. Sometimes I even do stuff and I'm supposed to at work, man, but I do it for y'all benefit and it's definitely worth it. And I appreciate every 168 viewers, man, and followers who follow me on the personal blog page. So there it is, man. Thank you, and I appreciate all of y'all. And to the Nighthawk Network, I appreciate y'all love and support too. But as a family, we're gonna get that love right back. So thanks for everything.
Yep, and of course, there's a couple things. It wouldn't be a show if a couple things didn't happen before we conked out. And of course, it took my cousin to point out something. You know where he went. And no microphone? No, actually, we didn't go there, but because you asked, sir. Thank you for letting me be myself. Yeah. There's a microphone for you. Because I appreciate y'all for tuning in and letting me be myself and being a part of this wonderful thing we call the Nighthawk Network. Let's get into some of my other partners and show them some shine before I head out. Hold on. Say what now? Uh-oh. You forgot one more thing, Hugh.
What's up?
Hi, Lil Bernie. I know you're getting us together, though, right? You about to get that stimuli that's going on? I appreciate you, Lil Bernie. Good look.
Bernie.
you know Lil Bernie got to chime in and do his part. You know how it go. Yeah, but anyway, like I said, we about to get out of here. Before we do, let's talk about some of our partners in the Nighthawk Network. We got Hey Bitches with host Helena Hologram, who you had chiming on the phone this evening. Season 2 is up and running for Hey Bitches. Got another fine guest coming to you next week. If you're still in the comment, H2, let us know who your fine guest will be next week. We appreciate that. We got Monumental Warmers and God's Word with my cousin, Dr. Marla Facey, on Thursday night. So she'll be coming to you tomorrow about 8 p.m. with a message of encouragement and the Word of God. Always appreciate her. District T with Big Meech. We have Big Meech in the comments checking in from the Donut Factory. His show is District T with Big Meech, along with Aunt Nikki and Big Red. Aunt Nikki did check in briefly early on in the show. They do their show usually around 9 o'clock during the weekend days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Thursday as well. We got my big brother Stan Mason behind the blue curtain Saturday at 11 a.m. Always excellent shows in regards to police policy and things of that sort. Aunt Nikki's interview series, Let's Talk with Aunt Nikki. We also have Girl Stop Podcast with my cousin Elena Miller and Letitia Williams Howard. I know you know who that is, cuz. You know who Elena Miller is. Of course you do. And of course, they're going to be on the show, not next week, because of course we're off next week, but the following week, they're going to be on my Get Off My Lawn live show, which I, of course, do on Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. And then, of course, there's Pastor Love Presents, his fine YouTube series that you will find each week on the Nighthawk Network. And, of course, we have GameTime Audible now and Get Off My Lawn After Dark edition that comes to you from time to time. That will be back also after the hiatus. We got a good show. I got somebody real special planned for y'all. Hopefully I can work that out between now and then. If we do, I promise you that will be one of the best Get Off My Lawn After Dark editions of all. And y'all know how good some of them been. So if I bring this particular guest on, you will definitely want to tune in. Trust. What about Rush Dying? And there's that. Okay. That's all I got to say about that particular individual. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go here. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not gonna go there. He gone. God rest the dead. Leave it at that. Okay. Hold on that last comment. I'm getting there. Mrs. Sally DeMarco, fashion guru, fashion past, present, and future, 9 p.m. Yeah, that's who her guest will be next Monday at 9 p.m. Mrs. Sally DeMarco. She's worked with some of the finest designers in the country. And there it is. Smurf.
Need I say more?
That guy wrote in on and so on and so forth. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, you last statement before we head on out, sir.
Man, it's Audible out, man. The last Audible.
Absolutely. So yeah, we'll be back, y'all. See y'all in a couple weeks. Until then, y'all have a good time where you at. Remember, life is not a Trump rally. Wear your mask, keep social distancing. We doing good. Keep it up. Any problems you have with that vaccine, let us know, cuz we praying that everything goes just as planned and you get your second one and you be good to go. So that being said, we're about to head up out of here. About to play that fine outro we done made for the people. And we will see you sometime soon, y'all.
Peace out.
Peace.
GameTime Audible is a Nighthawk Network presentation.